So, how do we account for these intangible assets? And more specifically, today, we're going to talk about the intangible digital assets that you may own, which may or may not have any monetary value. What happens if you pass away? What happens to that Facebook account? What happens to that online business, to that domain name? Do you have a plan to protect your digital assets should you die or become incapacitated? Gerald Cotton didn't. Gerald Cotton passed away tragically in 2018 with around $250 million in Bitcoin, stored, of course, online. However, he didn't tell anyone how to access that Bitcoin. No one had his so called password. And you probably know or can guess the rest of this story. That falls in the domain of what we call digital estate planning. My name is Bill Dalsetti. I'm a certified financial planner, registered life planner, and lover of life. I created the Happiness in Retirement program and this podcast. And also, I'm the founder of Dalsetti Capital Management. The Happiness in Retirement program, because the road to retirement should be an adventure, not a survival strategy. Let's dive right in and say we're going to talk about digital estate planning. Back in the medieval days, anyone that had any wealth to speak of would probably have that wealth stored in a castle, in the form of a castle. So there were no intangible assets. There were tangible assets, and mostly real estate. And wealthy people in the days of, the knights in shining armor, they had a castle. And what did they have around that castle? They had a moat. And the moat was there to protect the castle. And they probably had slingshots and hot oil and crocodiles and alligators in this moat. And they had a drawbridge. And that's how they would protect their wealth. Well, fast forward to today, and the vast majority of what we own is probably intangible. Things like stocks and bonds and mutual funds and online accounts, maybe valuable online businesses or Bitcoin or stocks and bonds. So how do we account for these intangible assets? And more specifically today, we're going to talk about the intangible digital assets that you may own, which may or may not have any monetary value, but they may have sentimental value or value to your family. What about family photographs, trips, and special moments that you probably have a Facebook account? It may be on your Facebook account. What happens if you pass away? What happens to that Facebook account? What happens to that online business, to that domain name? What have you? So this all falls under the purview of digital estate planning, and it's something relatively new to have to deal with a digital estate. The good news is the law has caught up with the reality of the digital world. And I want to give you a disclosure here too, that I am not a lawyer. I am not an attorney. I'm not about to give you legal advice. You should definitely speak to an attorney. I am asked all the time, Bill, we can do a lot of these legal documents online. Do we really need an attorney? And I would say, yes, you should have an attorney, someone that you trust in your state that is versed in the laws in your state to draft any of these documents. So what we're going to talk about today, you definitely want to talk about with your attorney, but I want to point you in the right direction and give you some things to talk about with your attorney and some action items to get you started down this road of digital estate planning. So how do you account for these digital assets? How does someone shut down your online automatic bill pay when you pass away or become incapacitated? Manage it in that case. What happens with your Facebook account? What happens with your cryptocurrency? Wow. You don't want to be Gerald Cotton's spouse, right? How about that, huh? Not being able to access your Bitcoin worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Wow. All under the purview of digital estate planning. So what is step one to digital estate planning? Step one is to inventory those digital assets. And the inventory includes usernames and passwords, security questions, as well, and how to get those authentication codes that are sent out when you try and access an account these days. So, first and foremost, I would say, how does someone access your cell phone where that authentication code goes? Right? So, you want to make sure someone can access your cell phone. You want to make sure someone can access your email. It doesn't do any good to have your usernames and passwords, but then you can't retrieve that authentication code because no one can access your cell phone. It doesn't make any sense. So, so you want to make sure that you make that clear to folks. And then inventory usernames and passwords for each account. You can do this physically on paper and store it in a safe place. Nowadays, there are tools that are available. One is called LastPass, LastPass. You can use that, sign up for it. It will digitally store usernames and passwords securely. And there's another site called 1Password. They're the two sites that come to mind that can make this job of storing usernames and passwords relatively painless. Now, I should mention, as you probably know, if you've listened to this podcast or you're a client of Del SETI, that it's really important that you update your usernames and passwords frequently. So if you do that, you want to make sure that you update your digital estate plan, this inventory of usernames and passwords frequently. Now, you want to share where your executor, digital executor, the person in charge of dealing with this stuff, you want to make sure they know where this information is stored. Again, it doesn't do any good, right? If no one can find the usernames and passwords. So you want to make sure you let them know where this information is stored. In the past, people would store their wills in, various places and not let anyone know where to find their will. Big problems. Well, the same thing with digital estate planning. Maybe it's with your attorney. Maybe it's with a loved one. Maybe it's in your house, but make sure someone can access this inventory. So inventory these digital assets, Facebook accounts, online bill paying, bank accounts, credit card accounts, cryptocurrency, all this stuff that you do online. Step 2, lay out what you want to have happen with each individual account or asset. It may be, for instance, that your Facebook account, you want that to be memorialized so that it goes on forever when you pass away. Or maybe you want it shut down. Well, lay that out. What about if you have an online business? Do you have a specific person you want that to pass to? Do you want that to carry on, or do you want it to be shut down? So every asset, what do you want to have happen, and be crystal clear on this in writing. Okay, what do you want to have happen? Lay it out, and make sure that you let folks know what those wishes are. Store this in the same place with the usernames and passwords. So that's step 2. For every account, what do you want to have happen? Facebook allows you to memorialize account for your digital executor to memorialize your account, which means it will stick around forever and you'll be out there in cyberspace forever and ever. How's that? Right? To have those family heirloom photographs and memories out there forever for your loved ones, or not. Maybe you don't want that to have that happen. Okay. Step 3, name a digital executor and a digital agent. What's the difference? A digital executor is the person named in your will who is charged with managing and dealing with these digital assets. And it does not have to be the same person that is going to deal with the rest of your estate. You can name a person just to be the executor of your digital estate. It may be that you have one family member who is really savvy with online stuff, and that's the person you want named. But maybe you want a different person for all the rest of your assets, like your home and, other tangible assets, if you will. Okay, so you want to name a digital executor. And you also want to name a digital agent. What's the difference? Well, an agent is someone who is named in your power of attorney document to take care of your finances, your financial dealings. Should you become incapacitated, you're not dead, you're incapacitated. You do not have the capacity to do these things yourself. So you name a digital agent in your power of attorney. Critical that you have a power of attorney, folks. I can't stress this enough. Without a power of attorney document, chances are there's going to have to be a guardianship proceeding if you are incapacitated. Let's say you're into sports and you have a skiing accident, for instance. You're incapacitated. Without a power of attorney document, your spouse or your family may have to go through what's called a guardianship proceeding with you. A guardianship proceeding is a legal proceeding that can cost thousands of dollars, in which eventually the court will, in all likelihood, name a person the guardian of you. But then there is court oversight around pretty much everything this person does on your behalf. So it's expensive, time consuming, can cause a lot of problems. A good attorney friend of mine some years ago said, good estate planning, you want to avoid the court and you want to avoid conflict for your family, for the people you care about. You want to avoid court and conflict. So have a power of attorney document and name a digital agent to take care of these digital assets. And in your will, you want an executor. That's if you pass away. So remember, power of attorney, you're alive, but you're incapacitated. Your will, you've passed away. So in a deal with your estate, what's left over when you die. Okay? Name a digital executor. Also name a digital agent in your power of attorney. So let's talk about the order of operations when it comes to digital assets. When I say the order of operations, the law has finally caught up with the modern world we live in. And, it's taken a while, but here we are. And relatively recently, most states have enacted what's called the Revised Uniform Fiduciary Access to Digital Assets Act, or RUFADAA. I'll say it again, Revised Uniform Fiduciary Access to Digital Assets Act. Most states have enacted this. New York State has, for instance, I know, my home state. And this lays out 3 tiers for accessing digital assets in the event you become incapacitated or you die for your executor or your agent. Tier 1, if a digital service provider provides a tool to designate someone, that tool comes first. So I liken this to a beneficiary designation. For instance, IRAs have a beneficiary designation. You can name a beneficiary. If you name a beneficiary for your IRA, it doesn't matter what your will says. That IRA beneficiary designation overrides the will, and that's what happens with that IRA. Well, this tool will override what your will says. So, for instance, Facebook allows you to name someone. They give you the ability to name someone right within Facebook. And you should do that. If you have a Facebook account, go there now, okay, and name someone, directly with Facebook. That's going to override anything else. So that's tier 1. Tier 2, if there is no such ability to do so within the program, the online service, then your will comes into play. And your will, that's where you need a digital executor or digital executrix. You need to have that person named. And it's the same thing with a power of attorney, a digital agent, should you become incapacitated. Okay, so tier 1, the service provider allows you to name someone, that's going to come into play first. If not, then tier 2, this is where your will comes into play. Did the person have a will? And did they name a digital executor? Okay, great. And if neither of those are true, then the term of service agreement that you read, wink, wink, will determine what happens with that digital asset. And probably it isn't going to be what you would have wanted. And I say wink, wink. Why? Well, how many times have we logged into or created an account, or we've had an account, say Facebook for a while, and you log in and up pops a new term of service agreement. And you have to scroll through the whole darn thing, and it can be pages and pages of legalese. And then you can't do anything until you click accept at the bottom of this document. But did you read the document? Did you read what it said? You probably should. Okay, but that term of service, the terms of service with that tool, that online program, if you will, for that digital asset, lays out what happens in the event you are incapacitated or if you die. And I liken it to dying without a will and what happens. So if you die without a will, if you do not lay out what you want to have assets happen to your assets when you pass away, well, guess what? The state where you live has a plan for you. They have a will for you, a default will that lays out what happens to your assets. And it's probably not what you would have wanted to have happen. Same thing in the digital world now. This term of service agreement is what happens. So if you do not name someone in your will, and if if you did not fill out their form that allows you to designate someone directly with that tool, that program, Facebook, for instance, then the term of service agreement comes into play. You really don't want to have that happen. Name someone in your will, name someone in your power of attorney document, and use the tools available, if there are any, directly with the service provider. Facebook provides it. Google provides it. Go there now. Take a few minutes and name someone within the programs. It's done. It's easy. Okay. So you want to take care of that. That's why you want to do that. So there are a couple of other considerations, things that people don't think about. And so how many people realize or think about the fact that digital assets are subject to potentially death tax, just like tangible assets? Your home may be subject to estate tax. Same with digital assets with any value. Maybe you have a domain name that's worth a lot of money. Well, that may be part of what's called your taxable estate. What about an online business? Let's talk about income taxes for a minute and digital assets. If you have an online business that's generating income, you want to make sure that your executor has a way to value that business. And just as importantly, you keep good books and records so they can help you either shut it down or help to have it continue on if that's your wish, and name someone as beneficiary of that particular online business. People don't think about that. What about sales taxes? You see, when you pass away, these obligations need to be taken care of. You'll want to make it easy. Remember, avoid conflict and avoid court. Avoid conflict, avoid court for your family, for your heirs. And you can, chances are, do that just by having the right documents in place, naming a digital executor, naming a digital agent. So maintaining good books and records. Okay, so there you have it, folks. Step one, inventory those digital assets, okay? The domains, the usernames and passwords. What you want to have happen with those assets, okay? Facebook, okay, I want it to carry on after I'm gone. I'm going to go to Facebook and name that person right within Facebook right now. I'm going to get it done. It's done. And I want my Facebook account, by the way, to go on and on forever. Okay, you lay that out. The assets that you can't do that with, then you still document usernames and passwords, security questions, but then you name step two, after keeping these records in a safe place. You want to make sure that you let people know how to access this information. Really, really important. They can access your cell phone. They can access your email for this third-party authentication and update this information frequently. When you change a password, make sure that you update this inventory. Consider using a tool like LastPass or 1Password to store this information digitally and easily so you don't have to do it yourself. Okay? Then talk to your attorney. Talk to your attorney as part of this process. They can help you out in creating and documenting your digital estate plan, naming that digital executor on your will, maybe naming that digital agent for your power of attorney should you become incapacitated, and then updating this stuff frequently. I would take care of this now. If you're listening to this podcast, take 5 minutes, write down these steps. Really simple. Take an inventory. Make sure someone can access your cell phone, your email account. Have a conversation with these people. Let them know where you store this information. Contact your attorney. Get the process started. Update these documents if you have them and they're old. They haven't been updated to include a digital executor or agent, and get the ball rolling. And finally, just go right to Facebook right now. How about that? 5 minutes. Go to your Google account. Name someone within each of these tools, and it's done. So there you have it. Digital estate planning. Get it done. Update it if you have a digital estate plan. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Happiness and Retirement Program podcast. We hope you subscribe to the program. Leave some comments. Let us know if you like the program. Leave a comment. Tell friends and family about it. Visit us at www.happinessandretirement.com or delcetti.com with a hyphen between the L and the S. And you can always reach out to me at bill@happinessandretirement.com. We'll see you for the next episode of the Happiness and Retirement podcast, which is going to be all about charitable giving. We're going to talk about donor advised funds. We're going to talk about qualified charitable donations and other topics around being charitable and maybe getting some tax benefit at the same time. We'll see you next time.